my big aha moment was in the police, and obviously they deal with a lot of trauma and tragedy and terrible situations, and there's excellent care in the police for after trauma. But I started to think about, well, how do we bolster people beforehand? What's the prevention side of it?
Okay, let's get started. What has been your career journey to date, and how did you get into your wellbeing role?
Definitely not in a linear fashion. So about from the age of 10, I knew I wanted to join the police, and couldn't join then, obviously. Went to university and did phys ed, but also did psychology, and I really loved that. I joined the police and I was in there for 18 years, and I did lots of different roles. In the last few years, though, I was wanting to move away from interacting with the community and be the support person for those that still do. So I ended up with portfolios in our Women's Advisory Network. I was the lead for early intervention for mental health, and the high performance framework. I delivered some workshops on that. There wasn't any internal roles for me, so I started looking elsewhere because and this job that I got at the moment came up, and I work for Silverfern Farms. I'm a program lead for Wellbeing and Inclusion, so I was just really lucky that 6 months after I decided to look elsewhere that this came up, and this is what I do. It's a funny one. So we've got 7,000 people across New Zealand in both operational at the processing sites and corporate. My role is to deliver on our wellbeing and DEI strategies, but also in response to what people ask for. It's very much worker voice centered. So, for example, our leaders don't know how to cope with people, when people say that they have got depression or they're suicidal. So I've developed a package, for that. So really responsive to what people want as well as delivering. It's just a year in, so we're starting to get some traction, which is nice.
Fantastic. And so why do you do it? What's the deep driver for you? Because it seems to me that people come into these roles because they have a story or something.
So my big aha moment was in the police, and obviously they deal with a lot of trauma and tragedy and terrible situations, and there's excellent care in the police for after trauma. But I started to think about, well, how do we bolster people beforehand? What's the prevention side of it? So I started looking into positive psychology, and then that came that idea that the positive psychology things don't have to go wrong, but you can do things to make people thrive. So then if they fall, they don't fall as far, or they just live better lives. And that was just like, that was my missing link. And so I've just dove straight headfirst into that arena.
That's amazing. And I think that connection with the work that you've done and the things that you must have seen and the connections you must have had with people all over New Zealand must just have really opened your eyes to what well-being looks like at its most basic.
Absolutely. And I think what I'm learning is that actually it's 1,000 tiny little behaviours that everybody can do. Like, it's nothing rocket science about it, but actually understanding that if you stop and look at a gorgeous sunset, you're going to have that wee uplift. So to do things like that on purpose. So that's where I'm trying to teach people, just like I've learned.
So what are you focusing on at work right now?
So as I said about the leading wellbeing, teaching our leaders, and again, it's that I think leaders think, oh gosh, it's another thing I have to do, and they're already time poor and there's pressures, from all sides. But just teach them it's not something you have to do. It's just about how you show up for the other people. It's that humanity of leadership. It's I was at a site last week, and one lovely gentleman walked in, and he went around and he fist bumped everyone in the office. So that is a complete difference than just walking in and sitting at your desk, or it's the tiniest wee things that can make a real difference to your team members. So just knowing your team and teaching them that, to know them and to know when something's off, and therefore how to deal with it.
Yeah. And you have, as you said, like such a varied workforce.
Such a varied workforce, yeah. Which is what I love. And I guess from police, I'm operational at heart. Just down to earth people who want to do a really good job and want to help their families and the community. And I'm like, well, actually, it's this well-being that if we invest in it at work, it's going to ripple out to the individuals, the families, the communities as well. So it sounds very pie in the sky, but to me, it's so doable. tiny little behaviours make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. It's because that is doable, isn't it? The tiny little
Yes,
behavior. Like, because we often think
yes,
about well-being as this massive, big thing for organizations.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 1%. Everyone lives up by 1% collectively. Oh my gosh, imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. There's like those graphs, isn't there? That
Yeah,
I
yeah,
try to draw and
yeah,
explain, but I'm not good at either of
no,
them.
no.
Tell me, what's been a recent win for you?
Oh, a recent win. Because half my portfolio is DEI, but obviously they're so interrelated with wellbeing, is we've stood up a business-wide DEI advisory group. So we had our first meeting in December, and it's from just a raft of people from Dargaville to bottom of the South Island, all different roles, ages, ethnicities, everything in the business. And so that was such a big win that the company endorsed that. And our plan this year is to gather that momentum. They're going to act as the voice of all their networks and people that we don't get to talk to, being so big. And actually, our ELNs that we want to form will feed into that group and to us. So, really cool, really exciting.
That's awesome. And that's
Mm,
again that employee voice you were talking about, isn't it? Like
yes,
making it the center.
absolutely. Yeah. And if someone feels, from a diversity perspective, they can be their self, or their well-being is lifted, and other people might have learned something, so their well-being lifted. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Very cool. How does Row help your work?
Oh my gosh. So because obviously I had a career change and I came into this role, and there's one other with me in this business, but it's very like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I doing the right thing? I think I know, and I'm researching, and there's lots of different things out there. So then when I found Row, it's like, oh my gosh, there's other people out there. And that connection with other people who are usually on their own or have a portfolio in a business, as opposed to being a whole business of, it's that connection and that sense checking, and I guess the generosity of sharing ideas and thoughts, and it also means what you send out in the newsletter is like, I just know it's been vetted, and it's
Mm.
just like, yep, I know, I can trust this. It's awesome, and it really helps me inform our people.
Yay, I love
Mm,
that.
yeah,
I agree with you. Do you know what? That's
yeah,
what almost I get out of it so much is that connection side of it. Like
yes,
I can't tell you how many times I get off a call. Like even after I get off this, I'm like,
yeah.
you know, it's a good place.
I know, because I could like talk about this all day long. So to have someone else at the other end of a phone or a screen to go, "Hi, well-being," blah, 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 it's awesome.
So good.
Yeah,
And like you said, because I think there are so many people who are like the only well-being person in an
yeah,
organization, and that's hard.
yeah. It is hard, and I guess also because talking about there's no literal pathway to this role, so standards and everything. I know there's talk about that, which is awesome. But you kind of are left like in your heart, and I think you said people join because they want to. In your heart, you feel like you're doing the right thing, but it's almost wobbly because there's no sense checking because you are by yourself. So yeah, it's awesome to have
Yeah.
others for that. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we used to say this about, you compare it to law, and there's a
Yes.
really well-trodden career path.
Yes.
If you want to do that,
Yep.
like that career path has been well worn, to
Yes.
partnership or whatever else it looks like. But for
Yeah.
well-being, I mean, and when you
Yeah.
reach the ceiling of your role, there's not necessarily a natural, oh, well, I go become a senior or I become a this or I become
No.
a that, because the roles are like all
Yes.
over the place.
Yeah. Interesting though, and it made me excited. Someone here at work, her youngest sister is just coming out of school in early tertiary, and is interested in well-being and how do I get into a well-being role. And I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be a whole new generation coming through that know what well-being is. So it was
Yeah.
never talked about when I was at school. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You problem. You have a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting. Tell me, what are your top 3 to 5 self-care go-to activities at work and home?
Um, Going for walks.
Mm.
So I walk in the morning with my dog, and it's that fresh air and that before the kids get up and that quiet, and it sets me up really well. I also walk at work. I'm used to not being at a desk, so when I'm at a desk, I'm like, okay, I need a break, and I've got this like 15-minute walk route, and sometimes I take a buddy. So yeah, walking and outside and fresh air. Um, I do embroidery. I've found that, and my mum got into it, so I started with her. I did some cross stitch, when I was a kid, but we've got quite into that, and it's just lovely to sit and do something and chat with her and her friends, we've got a craft hours group here, again with a connection and doing craft. Um, and then I love stationery. You can keep your digital stuff. I love beautiful stationery and
Oh,
pens.
a girl of my own heart.
It makes me happy at
I'm
work.
going to show you my notebook. I'm nearly run out of pages.
Yeah, like it's so, and I love walking into meetings with the big fluffy pen or something. It's like, you know what? A little bit of me.
Yeah. I love that.
It's awesome. I love it.
Oh, likewise. Do you think
Yeah.
it's funny? Because I wonder how many wellbeing people are quite, not always true, but like extroverted, or we
Mm.
love kind of because maybe we're more comfortable at expressing ourselves. I don't know. This is a massive generalization. I wonder if
Mm.
the same would be true in other fields.
Well, that's interesting because I would say that I'm very introverted.
Hmm.
Um, but so one-on-one conversations or small conversations, and although I run workshops, it's usually about 20 people, and that's more about them telling me,
Mm.
we conversations. But I guess introvert, I need to go and have my embroidery alone time
That sounds
but
wonderful.
it's a heart job. It's not a head job, it's a heart job. So it's about sharing that, and that's what gets you that energy and that with other people, especially when they start to click. That well-being can be really easy.
Thousand little pieces.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with the community that we haven't talked about?
Um, no, I'd like to reflect and acknowledge that everyone who does this is probably the same. And I guess because it's a heart job, I think people also take on stuff. So just again, that's a really nice thing to have connection with other people in the same work space, to share that with, because sometimes it's frustrating because maybe people at work don't get it, or you're beating your head against a wall, or there's a restructure and well-being goes. It's but I'm optimistic that we're just going to, tiny little growth um, until it becomes essential, because actually this next generations are going to insist on it. So I guess without sounding like a total full of myself, I feel like we're paving the way. Like it's the wellbeing roles new over the past however long, and so we're paving the way, and it's just going to get bigger. So we're doing our best, and I think that'll come to fruition eventually.
Yeah. I
And
couldn't
actually,
agree with you
daily,
more. Yeah.
every little person you affect influence daily.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I reckon sometimes those ripples are far greater than you realize. I mean, I don't know if you find this, but sometimes I do my burnout talks. I've had this happen a couple of times at the end of last year. I do a burnout talk, and then someone would send me an email going, "I shared my story with my wife or my sister or something," and then they did and talked about it. Or another time I was at the hairdressers, and the lady said, "I saw you at this presentation." Of course, I'm like, "Which one?" Anyway, she said, "I saw you at the presentation, and you've changed my life." And
yes,
I talked about blah blah blah. And I'm like, you just have no idea, because when you do a workshop or something, or and they walk out
yep,
the door and you think, did anyone take anything from that?
yeah.
You're looking
You're
for the
absolutely
immediate.
right. Because when you said about the win, and yes, that DEI is huge. It's a big win for the company, but actually, my biggest wins are when someone from some random processing plant that spends their day cutting up your beautiful meat has asked to join our internal Facebook page, our Wellbeing and just, oh my gosh, there's something that we've put out there that you've responded to, and it's just, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, so you're right. Actually, those little things are way more exciting to me.
Yeah. And those the ones you're like, oh, it's so good, it's so good.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. What else can I give you? Oh, give me a ring. I'll talk to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All the things. Here you go.
Sometimes I wonder, and I don't know if you ever have this problem. Sometimes I can be too much like, here's all the things, and they're
Yeah.
probably like, drowning.
Yes. Yes, because I get very excited. Yeah, and actually, what are we trying to do is make things really simple, like um, the simplest common denominator of information, um, because all the things that I know and I know make sense in my head because this is what I do all day. If you put that on someone, it just becomes that, oh my God, it's something else I have to do, So actually, the simplest things and the most relatable things are,
Yeah.
because you're right. I just go, have you got 8 hours? Sure, I can fill them.
So good. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you that. What would be your one tip for someone who's starting out in their role?
Listen,
Mm.
listen. I actually heard some recently about a listening tour, which I'd love to do because it's lots of drive to put things out or to do things, but actually to listen to what people want and need. And then with the knowledge that you have in this role or the knowledge that you can then go and find out to come back to them and go, well, hey, this is a cool thing. But so listening to people and keeping it simple. If all you give people is the 5 ways to wellbeing and how they can do that at work, 1,000 tiny behaviors, right?